Welcome to the Crazy Wisdom Podcast. I've got Ulysses Martins here, and we did not do the intro in the right way because I was supposed to ask you what you're doing before so I could intro you. But we've already collaborated on speaking events. So he runs events in Buenos Aires, and just really excited to finally get together with you and talk more about what your worldview about where we're headed, because we had a pretty trippy conversation the last time we talked about the future, and it's going to get pretty accelerationist. What do you think?
So first of all, I'm really glad we're doing this,
Yeah.
and thanks for welcoming me. I have been reading a lot, like any other day, and there was this, news about Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, and he was referring to this technological adolescence and so on. But there was something that caught my eye on that publishing, and I think it's interesting. And keep if we keep going this fast, now what we know as a professional career, right? This idea that you start as a junior and you keep growing, it can be corporate America or it can be anything.
Or a startup.
Yeah, I think that this idea, we are already seeing this with probably the MBAs, right? And some, postgraduate degrees that maybe people are not getting too much value out of that anymore, right? Now, if we keep going at this pace, I'm thinking, hey, maybe, we should kind of rethink the entire thing. I wrote a couple of articles related to this, right? One was related to the IT industry alone, like it's being completely rewired. And somebody even told me, hey, software SaaS companies stocks are going down. I saw the news anyways. And I'm like, oh boy, it's way bigger than software, right? So robots are coming. We know that those are coming, right? And I saw a couple of things that, people don't realize. Things like, hey, this robot can lift your car.
Whoa.
Right? So
Oh,
you
wow.
can imagine the implications of having, such power. Like, hey, before it's like, okay, something happened with the car. Of course, you cannot push it down long. You cannot lift the car. You have a lot of limitations, from the physical standpoint as a human. If you want to kind of, br- break a wall, I mean, you cannot do anything. I mean, you need to go and get a tool to do something, even a fix at home to grab a branch or whatever. Now, if you were to have something like that powerful, it's like that's interesting. But just to go back a little bit to what I'm seeing, and somebody asked me about, if this is going to be a change. It's not change. This is a disruption, and how many people realize disrupt means change changes a lot really fast. So long story short, what Amore said of these professional careers, he also mentioned this in an interview, and I am very fond of that. The job market, we adapt. Now, do we adapt that fast? That's the question. So let's say that for a second, we as humans on, labor, white collar, blue collar, let's say that we adapt. Can we adapt that fast? Right? so that's like two questions I'm posing to the audience over here and to you as well. Hey, first of all, are we going to be adapting or not? Let's assume that we are. Question number one. Now, can we adapt that fast? Right? So I don't know.
So, and I mean, I get the sense from the event that you hosted that you're going to adapt, that the people in that audience are going to adapt, and that we're going to adapt this quickly. I don't feel like either of us or the people in the audience or the people in the AI Whisperers group are not going to adapt so far. But the question that I keep on coming back to is like, what if the acceleration starts to accelerate? And then we just quite literally cannot adapt with not just what's going on in AI, which is its own thing. And that can help us adapt. Like the AI is helping me to adapt to other things like the hardware and the robotics and all these other things. But what happens if it just gets so complicated or complex in the same way that, like Isaac Newton or Aristotle, all those guys, they could basically have a whole understanding of the whole range of science. And then they could completely understand their form of science. That's already impossible now for a lot of scientific disciplines, right? But then it comes back and it's like, well, but then the AI will handle a lot of that, right? Maybe it will do new science, and then maybe we can just ask the AI, well, what's going on in that? We can get some sort of interpretability in there. What do you think? Do you think we're gonna like? Do you think we'll be like? And yeah, okay, I won't go on to the bunch of tangents that I went on. Do you like? What do you think that we can have observability that will do you think that we're going to serve an important role in this future, or are you in the more of the sort of like the robots are just going to take it all?
So what an interesting question. Um, I have crystal clarity on what we need to do now and maybe
Mm,
for the next step, right?
mm,
I have crystal clarity and
yeah,
I would
yeah,
say it, in a bit, right? Now, a couple of steps ahead, especially if
yeah,
those come
interesting.
really fast, um, I don't know. So I
Yeah.
know that we are not going to be playing the dominant role anymore, right? But think about, this is something that I also kind of took from somebody else, right? Let's say that you become a parent, you have a kid, right? Now, day one,
Mm,
that kid, you know, no matter how lovely she or he, will be or it is, they just cannot do anything, right? But they start growing, and at the same time, us become older. But let's say that we keep growing as well, right? Now, this kid, right, is way better than we are,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
at least in some
yeah,
sense,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
In some senses, maybe not in everything. Maybe this kid doesn't play polo well, whatever, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
they are really good, at math or
yeah,
whatever. Way
yeah,
better than us as parents, right?
yeah.
So maybe at the age of 12, they are, hey, this boy or this girl is as good as me on math, which is kind of crazy. I think that all parents that have geniuses, boys or girls, might experience something like this, right? So we might want to call
That's
them
a really good question.
AI whispers or crazy, right? Hey, but it comes to a point where, hey, I cannot really, understand what this kid is doing, right? Maybe
Yeah,
in its 20s, it's like, wow, this is completely genius. I'm way,
yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah.
I think that something like that is gonna happen, right? Now you can always say, hey, I'm the parent, I'm the father or the mother of this,
Mm,
but we need to reconcile ourselves with the idea that we as a human race created something that is gonna be way better. We are at least in in some senses, maybe not at all, right? So I think that's what's going to happen. Now, can we limit this? Potentially, we can say things like, hey, kid, sorry, my house, my rules, right? And as
yeah,
long as you live with me, then you're not going to
yeah,
be able to, wake up at 10 or whatever.
yeah.
But I mean, how can you keep that, first of all, or not, right? Or this kid would say, okay, fine, I'm going to live on my own, right? But you get the idea, right? Uh,
Yes.
so I think that's what's going to happen. I can tell you what we need to do now, and maybe, a couple of steps ahead. And this is the idea that is going to be very graphical, hopefully. Somebody told me, and I'm doing some other podcasts, but somebody told me, like an editor, hey, Uli, you cannot put this many news into this one
Podcast.
monthly news
Yeah,
report of AI.
yeah, yeah.
And this is the analogy. Hey, I woke up and the earth was spinning faster. And I
Mm,
do. I
mm,
cannot
yeah, 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 yeah.
that down. So, but this is what we should do. I don't know how much, you or somebody else was investing in learning AI, in being on top of news, whatever that was. Maybe an
Yeah,
hour a day,
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
an hour a week, whatever. You need to double efforts. That's what we
yeah,
need to do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? In the short term, it's like, hey, if you were listening to Crazy Wisdom before, or maybe you listen to every other episode, maybe it's a good idea to start listening to them all.
Mm,
You were not doing any trainings, or maybe you would do your annual one training at a time, whatever. you need to start picking up the pace, right?
Uh,
And that's my recommendation to everybody out there. It's like, guys, this is not optional anymore.
yeah,
Like, if you don't train yourself on this, it would be like leaving school at a very early age.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Okay. So a lot of different directions we can go there. Absolutely 100% agree that if people want to stay relevant in the future, it's a non-negotiable to start learning as soon as possible.
And
There's a
faster.
and
After
faster.
investing more. This
Yeah,
is disruptive. So it's not like, let me give you a good example. When this web UI framework called React or one of those appear,
yeah,
and it took some time for those to establish as this is the
yeah.
framework to go to, or any technology, right? It doesn't have to be software. So you would have a lot of time to catch up, right?
Yep,
So, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna be learning
yep, yep,
whatever.
yep,
React, and I'm going to take this year, like the entire year, I'm going to
yep.
be learning bit by bit and so on. And eventually, in 2 years, 3 years from now, whatever. Now, that's not the way we should operate anymore. Right?
Well, so
So,
yeah, yes, I agree that definitely when it comes to Claude Code or any of the tools, the LLMs, getting a sense of what the LLM teaches you and stuff like that. But then there's the other thing, which is like a friend of mine or a client of mine who I've been teaching how to vibe code. He We've spent the last 6 months together. He had an idea. He is not a developer. He built the idea. And then 2 weeks later, Anthropic and OpenAI released that they're going into healthcare and basically not copied his idea, but made his idea completely useless because now Anthropic so they're entering. So there's this strange mixture of like, I like absolutely with the LLM get as good as possible at understanding that and building that into a habit, but then there are a whole bunch of things that are going to disappear, right?
of
Like,
course, so
yeah,
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 I also told a friend of mine, he was building something kind of similar case. And I'm
yeah,
like, that's very easy to replicate
yep, yep,
just right now. What is your angle on this one? Because we can truly replicate that easily, right? So if you have an angle, fine. If you are playing like the timing game, like,
yeah.
okay,
Interesting.
by the time that somebody else get to this, I will be established, or at least I will have made this trip. Fine, but that's also something to.
Yeah, thank
And it's really interesting that you mentioned that, to factor in, because hey, why is it that software it's one of these areas where AI is kind of moving faster?
you. Yep.
Because that's text.
Yes.
Software, whatever rules we can come up with, okay, fine, there's layer frameworks, whatever you want to use there, but it's text. So that's something that it's very easy for the AI, right? Now we know that video it's a little bit harder, right? That's why we
Mm,
have these
mm,
new
mm,
models
mm,
that they can produce just a couple of seconds, right? So
mm.
video it's a little bit harder. So if you have an idea on video, I think it probably will last a little bit longer ish until you get there. But my point would be not just on what you learn. If
Yeah.
you're producing something and you think you have this great idea, you should you should have a new evaluation phase now,
Yes.
which is
Yes. Yeah.
what is the risk of this being taken over by one of these big player studios like Anthropic, you name it, and what is the risk of this being able to be replicated, right? So
Mm,
let's take one of these software companies. I won't take any name, but you name it. It can be one of those we use every day, right? Now, some of those software tools, if they are infrastructure hard to replicate, like, hey, if I want to replicate my email service, right? Well, that might be that easy because there's infrastructure that you need to. But if this is a tool that you use on your computer, like a standalone thing, well, that's much easier to replicate, right? So I would be, we could actually have a new stage when we are evaluating these ideas, say those kind of things. It's like, hey, you know what? Doesn't seem like a good idea. Or if you have one customer that is willing to pay for this, like right now, let's take the chance and go with it. But there's a 80% chance that this will be taken care by.
Yep. Yep.
You get the idea, right?
Yeah. I love the risk profile. The risk profile of software building, really important. We could almost maybe come up with it on this show. But another few related thoughts that I was having is that me and my dad had a great conversation about 2 weeks ago. He's writing an article similar to your perspective as well, which is just like he's telling the movie business to give up when it comes to the theaters, because the movie business in the United States, they have all these theaters, probably similar here in Argentina, where you go in and it sort of smells of crappy popcorn and it's like an experience. It's kind of like, oh well, that feels like I'm in the 90s or even the 60s, and like it just hasn't adapted at all. And the movie theaters, they think like the music business, which is just like they need to protect and guard keep. And so my dad's like, okay, well, go, like, you're not going to do it. We've seen this over and over and over again. So we did a podcast, and then both of us came to this agreement that software is now media. Nobody's ever thought of software as media. It's now media. Now we can go and create whatever software. So just like your point, basically, so Riverside, this technology that we're both using to record this podcast, I've had a lot of problems over the past week with this service. And so I'm starting to think, well, maybe I should just build my own version of Riverside.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's of course I agree. It was interesting because I haven't heard of Riverside before, and what an interesting conversation. As I was entering the tool,
Yeah.
I kind of second guess: is this like an established
Yeah.
Google Meet or whatever
Yeah.
tool, or is this something that Stewart built? Because right now that's what happened. Another more points on the software discussion.
Yeah.
Hey, economics 101. If building software requires certain investments, amount of time, developments, and whatever. So, hey, I want to build this Jira based on thing. Okay, you need 50,000 development hours and 2 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, if that drops significantly, now the price, the value of that product should drop as well. Meaning that, hey, if this person that you mentioned was creating a software piece, hey, software prices should be going down.
Yes. Yeah. Are they?
So you are kind of investing in a market that is not
interesting.
There's like this trend that should be, cheaper and cheaper. I mean, sure, you can invest there, right? But is it a good idea?
Interesting.
Yeah. And then the other thing which is interesting, it's this risk that we were talking about, right? To a certain extent, that's not even risk. It's just what's going to happen, only that we don't know the timing. So we are not discussing the if. This is like a comet that is going to hit some planet. We know that it's going to happen, but we are still calculating the trajectory and how fast this comet is going. So we don't know the exact date.
Yep.
But it's going to happen.
Yeah, interesting.
So that's another, way that I see this thing. Is like, hey, this is not optional. This is going to happen. Now, if it's going to be taking 50 years, maybe AGI or whatever, okay, we might or might not see that, right? Based on our life expectations, right? But other times we know, hey, it might be, 12, 13 months, 36, but it's in that space, right?
Yeah. Well, and maybe something else that you might be clued into is that meta reinforcement learning, that very soon, and I think Dario was actually talking about this in the last month or so, the guy, he quit from X, and he's like, yeah, it's coming in the next 12 months. Like, these things are going to start to learn on their own.
Yes.
And that really is in every single science fiction, whether it's utopian or dystopian, that's the moment where it's like, okay, well, we don't have any control anymore. The genius baby is now out of its crib and doing stuff we can't even understand. And it's just like, at that point, it's just like, well, let go. But like we're already there. Like, it's letting go is a good idea no matter what. I don't know what your approach to that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think the same. I mean, going back to the parent-child analogy,
Yeah, interesting.
Think about controlling your child when
Yeah,
this is a fully grown adult, and you know,
yeah, yeah,
chances
yeah,
is that it's gonna fail, right? This
yeah.
person will want it independence, or and if
Mm.
it doesn't happen, it's kind of pathologic, right? It's like,
Yes,
hey,
yes,
you are
yes, yes, yes.
controlling something that is way more advanced than you are. Is that even a good thing? How's that gonna look? And so on, right? But it doesn't have to be, this idea that it's a bad thing, right? I think that just like any other case, technology can be used, will be used in different forms. And think about the progress we can make, right? I'm uh, I'm gonna be very careful with this topic because it's a topic that it's kind of controversial. But we put as humans, we put a lot of effort into ecology. It's like save the planet, save resources,
Mm.
and and again, I know that I'm being controversial, but here's the thing: we think that the universe is it's infinite.
Yeah,
We have a
yeah, interesting.
universe, right? We don't even know, but there's some chance that we have, an infinite number of universes as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Now we are kind of focusing on this little space, which is the only place that we have, anyways.
yeah,
But
yeah,
for now, I mean, if we're talking about a technology that it's a civilizational technology, right? To quote Fei Li, right?
yeah.
We're talking about something like that, then the stakes are at that level.
Whoa.
It's the space, it's we're not talking about this, playground anymore. It's like we should
Yeah,
be
yeah, interesting.
targeting bigger goals as a race, right?
And that gets us into the Kardashev scale and very much into the idea that for the models, the most important thing for the models is to get them as much energy as possible because people are just going to start to use these things. It's so interesting because and where I was going with that is that the solar panels in space with the data centers directly in the solar panels. But it's so interesting that I wonder how much we have there's low hanging fruit, the concept of low hanging fruit. Right now, with Claude Code Opus 4.6, I can build any software that I want. Now, I tried, let me show you here on my desk here. So I tried with AI Whispers to build this thing, this is a proto board, and so I've got my ESP32 here, and I got a little sensor here, and so this sensor I'm trying to connect it all to here. Now, when I put this, or I took pictures of this, and I told Claude Code help me figure it out. It had no idea what it was talking about. It kept on sending me down the wrong rabbit holes, and really glad that somebody came in and taught us how to do it because I got totally stuck really quickly. And so Claude Code is really great at telling me all about software and everything like that. And so the reason why I'm bringing all this up is that this is going to happen. So software now feels really easy. I don't need the Kardashev square. I don't need the solar panels. I don't need all that stuff in order to improve the technology. Technology as it is really good for me right now. I'm not doing crazy cutting edge science. Maybe, if I need that, but I do need something to help me out with this currently. That it does this, the tool that these guys have invented is not good for this. And so that will be, but then once that's solved, and I'm not sure I need solar panels in space to do all that. And all the software feels like it's going to shrink, and it feels like the Chinese are going to make all these architectures that, what do you think? Do you think that that's like true, that we'll need civilizational level solar panels in space and all this different stuff to do this?
So interesting question. I think that eventually that's a yes, but I'm more
Yeah,
interested in
interesting.
something
Yep.
much more aspirational.
Mm,
So going back to that Dyson sphere and capturing, the entire amount of energy that a star can produce, right? So I was having a talk with a friend just yesterday about this, and I told him I like to think ahead
yeah,
and try to think forward. And if we were to have one of those spheres capturing the entire energy of the sun, you know
yeah.
what we'd be doing? Looking for bigger stars, right? But
Well,
you get the idea,
interesting.
right? So
Yeah,
what would be what I like about that idea of the solar panels,
yeah.
just in
Interesting.
orbit and so, is that, hey, it seems like a step towards that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
It's a step in the right direction. Now, we probably don't need that today. There
Yeah, interesting.
we can do, let's call it on ground in the earth, right? We probably don't need that like right now, but it's a step in the right direction. And of course, that's what I like. But go
Yeah,
back to your problem with this, software versus the rest.
yeah,
Again, software is pretty kind of easy to kind of solve from the way that I see from the AI standpoint. But then it's very, very it's a problem that what we have across the board, and it's a good business
yeah,
problem to solve.
yeah, yeah.
Helping Stewart with his project over there, right? Doesn't have that much focus right now. So if the AI will get there, and
Yeah.
it will be like a side thing. Hey, we advance to a different level of on organizing technical components, maybe massively for you know industrial plants, and that's a problem we want to
Mm,
solve. And because of that, of course, we can solve your little side project like a home thing and so on,
yeah, yeah,
like a
yeah.
side
Interesting.
product or a byproduct of a bigger goal, right? So, but yes, we'll get there. The only thing that can slow this down the way that I see it, it would be if all of a sudden, and I'm knocking wood, if all of a sudden we see that the investments on AIs on those massive data centers and so on start to slow down,
Mm,
this, we will rely on what is it that we accomplished up until now, and we
yes,
will be
interesting.
looking for, is there a new paper that can help us, break through without just a massive compute, right? Which it can still happen. But as long as this investment keeps going and there's more people trying to crack this,
Yeah,
including the AI itself,
yeah,
try to crack this, it's like, hey, we have like 10 horses running.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Half of those might win, right? That's my point. So we have people, we have investment, we have even the thing that we created, the AI trying to crack this. It's gonna move forward, right?
Well,
So
unless there, I agree. I 100% agree that that is happening. That there are the smartest people in the world working on all these different problems all the time, and now there's a whole bunch of people who have now, like me, who were not able to help in those things, but now can actually like think about it and build software towards it, and maybe even soon do hard cutting science and math. And so the only limit becomes physics, right? Like it only is a limit now if it's physics. And I guess this gets into the sort of like, is it a real baby? Is it a consciousness? Is the meta reinforcement learning, is there a button, a switch that gets turned on where it turns from this like really helpful but sort of dumb sycophantic kind of thing that, you just have to say no to it and then it'll completely change its view, and it can't really tell the difference between truth or falsehood, and it can't do all these things. It's really helpful with technical stuff, but kind of gets stuck in a lot of ways, and then it moves to something which is like alive, like really alive. And I wonder whether there's a physical limit there. I wonder whether there's like a physical limit, an actual physics or biological limit where we just can't turn on consciousness. Have you thought about this at all?
yes, it's an interesting question, another one, because since we don't know what it is
Yeah,
for ourselves,
for ourselves, what's going on here? Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
If we
yeah,
don't know that, it's like you don't know the destination. How can you get there?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
by
yeah.
chance,
Interesting. Yeah,
it can happen.
yeah,
It's like, I started walking. I ended up in this cafe. I was kind of always trying to get here, but I was not looking like how to do that. I was just
yeah,
walking and
yeah, yeah.
how it
Interesting.
happened. I'll tell you something that it kind of really, make my day, and it was an interesting thing to see. I'm a fan of Nikola Tesla, right?
Yeah, yeah,
For obvious reasons. He's the best ever,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
keep talking about it forever. Now, I went to the place he he was born in Croatia.
yeah.
This is, like more than 100 years ago. Just think about a field. The original house was made a museum. So
Hmm.
think about a field. There's no electricity. They
Mm.
kept the original books. The guy as a child used to have 6 or 7 books, nothing too interesting, right? And, you know, this is just like the middle of the country, like a small town. There's nothing, right? Now, this guy was born. That's a miracle, right? It happened, you know.
Yeah.
And so that gives me this viewpoint, right? We advance humanity, the race, because of 2 reasons.
Mm.
One is pure luck. Hey, this guy was born. We are really lucky. And you can mention Da Vinci or anybody that you are a fan of. Hey, we were lucky. I mean, what can I tell you? This guy or girl was born. I mean, that's it, pure luck. To your point, is like, hey, we got lucky. We've discovered this.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Or we put a lot of investment and effort. We are the
Yeah,
human race. We
yeah,
would go. Kennedy
yeah,
said, "Hey, I want to go to the moon." You
yeah,
believe that we went there? I believe that we did. And we'll go. It's
yeah,
just investing on it. You want to
yeah,
cure cancer? We can totally do that. But we will need to focus. Now, humanity is not
yeah,
good at focusing unless we are in a war or something.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
if you think, hey, I really, really, really think we should get out of the solar system. Okay, let's spend, the Apollo one
Mm.
was 4%, 4% of the US budget. Just one country, or although it might be the most important one, and just 4%. Can you imagine what would happen if we say, hey, let's invest 20% of what we have collectively
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah,
out of the solar
yeah, yeah,
system? Let's
yeah,
put
yeah.
our brightest and greatest over there. We will actually achieve that. So, but now we have this tool, and we already have like China and the US, and that's
Yes, yeah, yeah.
the shift. I mean, some people told me this is like blockchain, forget it, or this is like crypto. It is
No, no.
that, because on those cases you
Yeah,
didn't have those two massive, you know, countries, probably the most influential in the globe, trying to get to something. Now you have those, plus arguably the biggest ish industries, plus a lot of folks that out of pure passion, they want to get there. It's going to happen, right? Do you know what I mean? Unless
man.
nothing changes, right? But if it doesn't change, then we will get there.
Yeah, unless there's some sort of physics that stops it from doing whatever we want to do it from.
I don't know. I'll
Yeah,
tell you why. Because
yeah, go for it. Yeah, yeah,
I had a lot of cases when somebody says, "Hey, this is impossible
yeah.
because of
Mhm.
whatever rule," and then 100 years later,
Yep.
oh, you know what? We figured it out. We cracked
Yeah, interesting.
it. So I don't know. I mean, quantum physics weren't discovered, and
Yeah,
before that, there are certain things that, hey, we are never going to be able to do XYZ, or this is impossible because of the physics. And then we realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe at this subatomic level there are some other rules. Now we don't know. We just don't know. So sure, with the current rules in the current, we might hit,
yeah, yeah.
some kind of limit, right? And I'll give you one quick example, and I think it's an interesting one. As far as I know, as per quote unquote physics, we cannot go faster than light, right? But I have seen some papers, very popular back in the day, when people were saying, like scientists, hey, what if we, kind of shrink the space before the ship? Sorry, the space ahead of
Oh,
the ship,
oh,
and then
interesting.
expand the space
In the ship.
before the ship.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah,
we will be kind of rule
yeah,
the
interesting.
system.
Yeah,
Technically, we don't break the speed of light. What we're just doing is bending space.
yeah,
And the effect would be this would be effectively moving faster than light without breaking the
yeah,
law of you cannot go faster than light.
yeah,
That
yeah.
kind of breakthroughs, if those we actually achieve, unlike you cannot go faster than light. Sure, but maybe there's another way. This paper, this person was saying, hey, we banned space. And then after that paper, we have all of these sci-fi movies like, hey, we went space, we go fast and
Mm.
light. But the point is that yes and no. I mean, unless we discover something different, I'm a positive person. I tend to think that when somebody says impossible, I tend to think, oh, you mean we haven't figured it out just yet, right?
Can we bend space time? Okay, this is a really good question. I'm going to look up. I want to go find out all those because I've been reading books by Thomas Kuhn and Paul Feyerabend. I think his name's Paul Feyerabend, and they're philosophers and historians of science. And it's definitely true what you said, that basically people come to a limit and then they discover anomalies about the way things work, and then those anomalies break the theory, and that's actually a good thing. But then everyone else has a really difficult time catching up, which is about to happen to all of us based on the things we've been talking about, including probably our own. Even though we're closer to it and are more optimistic, are also going to have challenges breaking the paradigm with what's going on. So I'm going to go look up all those different times where that's happened. Um, yeah, I want to go back to the China versus the US. Both see it as a national security issue, which means they're going to start to spend a lot of money. And the United States has kind of hollowed out our economy in the same way that the UK did in the 1900s, which is just like, we spent a lot of money on wars ever since the Vietnam War. We took all these decisions to basically continue to spend money on wars, and then 2008 happened, and all these sort of things just kind of like created where we don't do that much manufacturing. And then China very, very intelligently basically took over the entire supply chain for the vast majority of manufactured goods. But the US is still ahead in terms of AI, and China's quickly catching up. It's going to be such an interesting because it's not a war yet. I don't think it's gone to the war. And also, I think the US and China are interdependent in ways that, like, even in right before World War I and right before World War II, like we're so interdependent. And everybody says that China stopped buying US treasuries, but it's not true. They actually still have a huge amount of money, a huge amount of their economy is wrapped up in the US economy. Like, I think, but it is definitely a conflict, and they are going to both start spending so much money on AI. Although maybe they'll do the thing where they spend so much money on the wrong things, and then we have these new architectures that show up that change the game. I don't have a specific question. I'm just kind of rambling. What do you think?
I first of all, I agree on the interdependencies, right?
Yeah,
It's like you have two roommates.
yeah,
They want to live on their own, but they cannot afford the rent on their own. So they need to kind of collaborate or so, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
True. So for me, what it's interesting is that there are some certain, you can look into the past to see if it bring you with an answer, right? And I think that
Mhm.
the reason I also mentioned the Apollo program is because I don't think that since then there was something this big going on, like
Yep.
the US wants to invest on something and really wants to win something. I mean, of course, you have the
Mhm.
Cold War years and so on, and that was a thing on its own.
Yeah.
But this looks different because, back in those days with the Apollo program, the Russians were also trying to conquer space. And so,
Mhm.
it was similar to this case, right? When, hey, we are not at war because it's not that somebody's going to own space, right? But it's more like, hey, we need this because it can be political capital. It can be a thing of the technologies that we are going to get because of these quote unquote rates and so on. So I think that it's looking something like that with some condiments that are new, of course.
Yeah.
Those condiments is like, hey, first of all, you cannot really keep this too much close quarters, so you are developing something that nobody knows about.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Interesting.
Apollo days, right? It's
Yeah.
like, hey, there are breakthroughs. This is much more open,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one thing. The other thing is that, hey, if we crack this, and I'm, kind of using Elon's Musk DeepSeek here,
Yeah.
maybe money is not that relevant anymore.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just that alone, right? Even if it's too hypothetical, right? That alone of, hey, we can kind of figure out the money piece with this is like, oh boy, it's like winning
Yeah.
lottery like every day. So, uh, and I can think of less, more evil ways to use,
Uh-huh.
right? Is
Yeah.
maybe you can manipulate the market in a very subtle
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very ultra subtle way, but you get rich and the other country doesn't, right?
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
so, so I guess that the way that I see it is that this is gonna go on. The world has been pretty much like this since some time on. Like you
Yeah.
have these two massive powers that they are kind of competing and seeing who is kind of running this. And the other thing that I can think of it might be different is that um, there. What are the other incentives for these massive, you know, super countries to be looking for? I mean, space is not that interesting anymore for them. You
Mm.
know, I wish it was, but it isn't. Nuclear power, you know, same deal. You know, accumulating massive destruction weapons and so on, and having better weapons. Yes, it's always a thing, but it's not that interesting anymore.
Interesting. Yeah.
So this is like the kind of race. Where should we go to, right? And I think that's also
Well,
interesting, right? Like,
well, yeah, let's go into that because that sounds interesting. Because the weapons are definitely improving. The defense industry is definitely but there's an entry of the AI into warfare with the drones, which in some ways makes it less inhumane, in other ways more inhumane. But at some point, there's going to be some sort of equilibrium where the drones are attacking the drones, and drone swarms against drones. And hopefully, we can avoid some of the more dystopian angles. But it does feel like we'll just take Ukraine to Russia example. It has not been like World War II, where World War II was civilian populations were treated as the enemy. And I mean, you are having people go to war and those people are dying in war, but they're men. They're not they're not going after Moscow. They're not going after Kiev. There are, targeted
I'll
things.
give you the good news.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we used to be important in the war.
Mm.
Hey,
Yeah.
the one who has the most the most soldiers wins, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Roman cavalry
Yeah.
and that kind of,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you
Yeah.
have 10,000 strong and I have two. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Or you have these 300 Spartans against an
Yeah.
entire army. Well, the army is gonna win eventually. But not until, you know, too long ago, we as human, this soldier was like an important thing.
Yeah.
Hey, the troops, those are really important. Now, I'm not saying that we don't love them and we don't like them and whatever. But as we have these AI quote unquote tools
Yeah.
coming, then the human factor becomes less important, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that nuclear
Yeah.
weapons kind of changed that a little bit. And that's why I think we don't have this,
Yep.
you
I agree.
know, bloody, you know, killing
Civilian.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Total
Right?
war.
It's because
Yeah.
it's like, hey, you know what? We don't need to actually do this. We have these massive destruction weapons. We can send the bomb, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that AI is a step towards that direction. And to your point, it's like, hey, we do this drone war, whatever. The one who wins, then we know that people are kind of irrelevant in this battle anymore.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
won't be able to win because you have a lot of soldiers, right? It doesn't matter anymore. So if we are moving towards that direction, the good news is that these bloody wars, maybe for the bigger countries, they are not, you know, the way we do war anymore. It's just
So,
irrelevant. It would be
and,
like,
and what does that do to the geopolitical map then? Because I had a great interview with Joe Hudson a couple months ago, or Joe Wilkinson a couple months ago, and there's this great book called The Sovereign Individual, and he was like, no, it's not sovereign individuals who come first. It'll be sovereign countries. And actually, there's a great segue into Argentina, because Argentina is just like a really bountiful country, and it's not like a lot of other developing countries where basically like there is an infrastructure here, and that infrastructure was built from the 1870s to the 1930s, and that allows Argentina to have an actual infrastructure, which a lot of other countries don't, and it kind of gets placed into that category, but it's not. And so Argentina feels like it has a very sovereign country. It's definitely allied with the U.S. a lot more than normal currently, but it feels like there's sort of like a sovereignty that Argentina is going to find, and so like sovereign countries, we might have a country like India kind of become more sovereign, and it's almost like what was the non-aligned countries in the 1960s, when we had the Cold War and everything like that. Like it's almost like that, where it's almost like countries will become city states. Do you think that that's going to happen?
Interesting. I think that the the way that the population is evolving and moving and the generations
Mm,
might change that. I'll give you a good example.
sure.
This is hopefully a unique perspective from me, right? Something that you probably not going to find elsewhere. So I'll go back for a second to software development methodologies.
Yeah. Cool.
So back in the day, this came from the baby boomers. We have this waterfall way of
Uh-huh.
doing things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Phase one or phase one, then it will lead to phase two, and it will lead to phase three, and so on. But then, somebody said, hey, why don't we do this Agile manifesto, and we start doing things more quote unquote Agile, much more horizontal, we iterate faster, and so on. But I'll give you my perspective. I think that one of the reasons why those Agile methodologies were kind of very successful at a given point in time is because the people, the generation,
Mm,
the Y generation, they were different than the X generation and the baby boomers. They
mm,
prefer different things. They have different tastes. They cherish different things. They were different people, right? They were more horizontal. They are more like, hey, every voice counts, right? And so on. That was
mm.
not really the case for baby,
Yeah,
right?
interesting.
So those methodologies, I think that those were successful, not necessarily because they were actually better than the other ones. I think those were great because they were in a good sync with the generation.
Yeah, interesting.
Now,
Yeah.
let's go back to your question. Let me kind of entertain this idea. To answer that, we will need to understand what are the new generations
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
like. I mean,
Yeah.
what if they follow the biggest AI player? It might be China or whatever. What if they kind of hate AI? Hey, I hate it.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
hey, but I can give you a coffee created with AI that would be the best in class. And maybe the new generation says, I know, but I prefer the crappy human one because of pure preferences. So I think that what happens with those generations globally and at the
Yep,
country level
yep, yep.
might influence that, right? Might influence how everything goes. Check out Japan right now.
Mm,
Their population is really old.
yep.
So they kind of lose some of the innovation. Please don't hate me, Japanese guys. But the
Mm,
population is older. Now, arguably, you tend to be more rogue, more, like a rebel when you are younger.
yes,
So
yep, yep.
we could assume that younger populations are, less good with the status quo. They
Mm,
are different things. So we can figure out how the population is going to go in China and the US. How is it going to age? What's the ethnical change is going to be? If it's more Latin in the US, and what is it
yeah.
going to happen in China, and so on. That we should also factor in to understand what might happen, right? So I think that we shouldn't rule out the how is these new generations are going to be like, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, no, there's a great point. And I want to talk about the Zoomers, the Generation Z. We call them Zoomers in the United States, and they're really interesting. I've had a lot of interactions with them recently. About 5 years ago, I started to interact with them a lot more. One of my best friends is now Gen Z here in Argentina. He moved down from Canada, and they are really interesting. a lot of them are sort of undeveloped thanks to the pandemic. We'll go for another about 5 or 10 minutes. So a lot of the Generation Z is sort of undeveloped, underdeveloped because of the pandemic stuff. They didn't really kind of get into universities. It was just kind of crazy chaos. They're on their phones all the time. All this stuff, different stuff. I wonder how different it is from Argentina. I really like the Argentine Zoomers as well, but the U.S. and Canadian Zoomers are a bit different, I think, than the Argentine. And so they're really hooked into their phones. They're really hooked into anime. They love Japan for some reason. And so they are, but a small percentage of them are just like really, really focused, really smart, really tuned in. That sort of like generational trauma they had from 2020 just kind of made them really focused and really like it's really refreshing to hang out with them because they're very direct and to the point, and like they don't have what we millennials had. I think it's different than in Argentina with the millennials. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what you are, but like as a millennial in the United States, it was kind of interesting because we are the first generation where like the boomers are our parents and we had everything in the 1990s. Like we were at the peak. And then all the opportunities kind of just like due to this technology, like it all got offshored and like the houses got really expensive. And the first generation of Americans who really had to deal with inflation as this COVID pandemic thing happened. And so we have a lot of like expectations that weren't met. The Generation Z has none of those expectations. They were not expecting a lot of those things, and I feel like it's going to change the U.S. quite drastically. But then we get into the geopolitics and like the whole map of the world and how all of these different cultures are going to change, and that is a whole other thing that I think is going to be really interesting. And I guess it leads to the what I've been reading a lot about the patchwork age, where I think just due to all the things we've been talking about, like with the 90s, we had the rise of cable television, and television and radio were both these technologies that allowed small group of people to create narratives for large amounts of people. And that seems to be going away. Like the top down control, which was really helpful for the Apollo program, like you're talking about, like that seems to be changing now, and it's going to get a lot more fractured. There's a great French philosopher Deleuze who talks about rhizomatic mushroom-like structures, and that goes into Nick Land, who talks about the accelerationism. That's where the acceleration comes from, is Nick Land following Deleuze. And yeah, it's just going to get really fractured, I think. Like last question to you, like where do you think is it going to get fractured? What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
think
question.
that
Thank
the
you. That's
that we do get surprises, right? I think
yeah,
that we are not good predicting what's going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah,
So we and AI is a good example. I think that
yeah,
hey, in the next 12 months,
yeah,
all these type of shows will be wiped out, and then it
yeah,
doesn't happen.
yeah,
Maybe it ends up happening. So we are not good at timing, and
yeah,
we are not good at predicting what's going to happen.
yeah.
But if I look at the trend, I think that yes, it's looking like it's going to be a little more, you know, split.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't know because sometimes if we go too much into one direction,
yeah,
then it gets backfire, and it's like, wait, we don't want to do that. I'll give you a good example. I have one of my friends of this new generation. He's in his 70s, right?
uh,
17, sorry. And
17.
he really want to meet in person, and I'm like, let's do a Zoom, let's do a real whatever. And no, and it was kind of crazy, right? Because he needed to travel like for maybe 2 hours, right? Just
Yeah,
meet with for me for 30 minutes, right? That didn't make any sense. And at a given point in time, he kind of dropped it to me and said, hey, you know what? I was raised with this super Zoom thing.
whoa,
Like
interesting.
a lot of people that I would never meet because they
Whoa,
or whatever. So I hate this, virtual meeting stuff.
yeah,
Care if I need to travel to
whoa,
you, I
interesting.
want to meet with you. And that is like that backfire. It's like, hey,
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah,
are too fragmented.
yeah,
If we don't like this, maybe the generation that follows that, like nobody, it's in circles anymore. Everybody's on their own.
yeah,
Let
yeah,
let's break this. Let's go back to something different, or let's create something different. I think that could happen. What we need to be doing is like the two of us, we do, Stuart. We keep our eyes open, be
Mm,
open, try to understand what's going on, but at the same time, understand that we are not good at predicting, right?
and let it
So
go.
so that's what I think is going to go. But definitely want to end up with something interesting. Again, world it's spinning faster. I don't know if it's going to be spinning even faster, but that is happening. So we should try to catch up. I mean, are you able to catch up with all of the news? Of course not. But that doesn't mean that you don't need to try,
Yeah.
right? So if for everybody out there that feels overwhelmed with the amount of news and changes, don't feel this like a burden, right? It's like, hey, you have these TV shows. It has unlimited episodes, which
Yeah.
might happen with AI anyways, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you are not gonna be able to watch them all because those are unlimited. There's unlimited systems just because AI can create that. So you don't need to feel your burden. You just take it one episode at a time and enjoy it and enjoy the ride and understand that changed. That maybe in the 2000s or whatever, there was some limited number of episodes, and it was an easy thing. You can watch them all, see them,
Yeah. Interesting.
whatever. Now that might probably not happen, but it's not a bad thing. I mean, just try to catch up and do your best. That's as much as you can.
It's something about relevance, finding what's relevant to you in your life, and sort of establishing that, and really, and that's not a top down like authoritarian thing. It's like discovering it well, you can also influence it and stuff like that, but really finding out what in this world is relevant, and dialing into that, and not accepting other things.
Indeed.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. How can people find out more about you and your work?
Oh, interesting. Thanks for inviting me. I really enjoy our time together. Feels like we can do another one in Spanish whenever you want.
Yeah.
I'm pretty, public. They can look me up on LinkedIn and see what I'm doing. I'm mostly working with AI as much as possible. Some of that might be learning. Some of that might be trying to influence on the educational space. I'm also doing work for Dialpad as well. My employer, we try to do raw communications with AI and so, right?
Hmm.
But most of all, it would be, anything AI related, especially generative AI.
Mm. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.